6:30 a.m. tennis match I was invited to, and there was non-negotiable. I was definitely going to miss it.
He declined the 6:30 tennis match, so here we are. I just have to tell you, Governor Green had practiced. From Hawaii. He was practicing with the Hawaii University tennis team. So we'll have to come to Austin and play a little later.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
We'll do it.
All right. Well, we have a few questions for you, Matthew, and then we'll open it up to our fellow governors. But we've had over 20 governors now, 21 governors who have participated in Disagree Better, and we've talked about what this is all about, and we have many more that are modeling this in the way that they're running their states. We talked about how to get other people involved in this, in uniting Americans and bringing us together, cultural icons. I know there's a little bit of hesitancy amongst people in your line of work who say, I don't want to get involved in politics. We like to say this isn't politics, this is the opposite. It's about bringing people together as Americans. Can you talk about why this is important to you and how maybe we can go about getting more people in this space?
Sure. So I think it's important to me. I think it's important to everyone. We seem to be in a bad situation right now. The extremes seem to be going further left and further right. Decency doesn't seem to be on the table. Rules of engagement seem like they need to be renegotiated, reestablished. A foundational set of values needs to be, I call it a constitution of expectancies between us as citizens, between us as leaders. And inherent to that is not just the kumbaya good times, but we're going to have conflict. We're going to have confrontation. Actually, you cannot have any unification. You cannot unify if you don't have confrontation. It's two things coming together. I think we need to reestablish our relationship with what that word means, which will then lead to how we go about it. We aren't bringing that to the table. The American people aren't seeing that either. Now, I know there are times where I've been a part of some bipartisan agreements. Bipartisan Safer Communities Act was one. That it seemed to work. I think what needs to happen is the leaders need to show how it works, and then we can do better marketing that. Now, look, I understand it's hard to market and sell success in how people negotiate. It's not as fun, it's not as sexy, it's not as exciting as the car wreck. We're a nation of rubberneckers. It's just human nature. But how do we sell the success of it? How do we market that? How do we promote that, hey, this worked? Not only today, but this is bringing you value tomorrow and down the road. I think we're all right now caught up in short-term, short money wins. And so we come to the table and we argue and we call each other's names. And America sees a lot of us when we do that as this is entertainment. I'm in the entertainment business. Our leadership and leaders don't need to be in the entertainment business.
Yes.
You know when you see me in a film that is basically fictional. I've read a script, I'm playing a character. That's not the role that the leaders of our nation need to be playing. They just don't need to be. So the adults in the room, I've heard that term thrown around. Yes, the adults in the room. Don't allow, so much of America almost wants to watch the car wreck because we believe, hey, but our leadership, and especially in government, do not need to look like an episode of Real Housewives. When we negotiate, when we decide. And sometimes that's what comes off. And as we know, that's also what's going to be promoted. That's what's going to get the most likes. That's what's going to be watched the most. So how do you negotiate the right way with decency, and how do you show that two sides can at least understand the other side and still walk away going, I hear where you're coming from. I disagree on this point, but I hear where you're coming from. How do we market that? How do we sell that? How do we sell that as one healthy, but also sexy, and also fun, and also the way forward? Success doesn't have to be boring like that, and we're going to have to feed America that, I think, for it to become part of the social pop culture sort of vernacular. But it can change. It can change because I think we're hungry for it, and America's hungry for it, and the pop culture is hungry for it, even if we don't know we are. We're hungry for it.
Well, I think you touched on kind of these entrepreneurs of division, sort of shock jock talking heads on both sides that get their ratings by saying the most aggressive and outrageous way of attacking their opponents as possible. Sadly, there are a few people that call themselves elected officials and politicians that also play that game more to their Twitter or X following than to the concept of public service. Another thing we've experienced that's well documented is what's called the perception gap, which is that Democrats assume worse of Republicans, Republicans assume worse of Democrats, and really mischaracterize what they're even opposed to.
Yes.
You've probably seen some of that. You've taken your work to DC and others. What's your observations on this perception gap and how we can at least disagree about what we actually disagree on rather than the starting point, which is we're disagreeing on things that are sort of a false premise in many cases.
Right out of the gate.
Yep.
We're definitely drinking the Kool-Aid. Look, we know this. Perception, reputation can precede. We're in a battle for the facts right now. We're in a battle for the truth right now. Came up last night, the term. We're in a battle to actually negotiate. How much does it really matter? The truth, the facts. I don't say that cockily. I say that really. I mean, it's a real question that we need to ask ourselves today, and own up to it, and admit that the truth and the facts don't really matter as much as we like to say they do to a whole lot of people. Is it old-fashioned to say that the truth ought to matter? Maybe, but I'm not going to say it's out of style or should be. Look, we talked about it in the first question. The extremes on the right and left, this perception gap, they have the microphone. It's more entertaining. They have the stage. This 60% in the middle of that where we do agree on the basic values, and you see it every day. Not only these places here, you see it in people that you run into. I see it all the time. Camille and I see it all the time. We got to take the mic back. Now, are we just kind of cruising down the middle, going, "No, I hope it comes back this way"? I do that sometimes, and think that it'll find its waterline, and people will get bored with all of the soap operas on the edges, and it'll come back, and it'll find the waterline and sober up. I don't know. I think we probably need a little more teeth than that, and need to get a little more aggressively centric, and see this meeting in the middle that I call it as a place of real aggression. Actually, it's not a neutered shade of gray of full-on inherent compromise. It's actually a very strategic position to be in, to know when you want to go a little left or when you want to go a little bit right, to at least meet someone and be able to look into their past and see where they're coming from before you were playing, because we're caught in this invalidation upon howdy. We are counter-punching. Oh, we're right now a nation of counter-punchers, or at least that's what it seems to me. A vision forward is coming forward with an idea. Right now, if I invalidate you, we right now don't have, to go back to the word confrontation earlier, which means you can't have unity without confrontation. We're not having real confrontation right now. If I invalidate your position off the bat, that's a lack of courage on my part right out of the gate. That's not real confrontation. There's no battle of that. And that's what, and we know it. Part of it seems to be through party preservation. Lead with that, whatever it takes to invalidate the other side. Don't even give it its time of day. Don't give it its airspace. Don't give it your ear space. And I don't hear our leaders. I want to hear more vision from our leaders rather than just, I want to do the opposite of what they want to do. Well, no, tell me how do you see the way forward, instead of just saying, no, all I know is I don't want to do it that way, or that's the wrong way. And look, we see in right now, it's with two presidential candidates, fear, let's admit, fear is easier to sell than hope. It's more measurable. You know, we talked about the invisible assets of being able to market a good negotiation. It's harder to sell. That's page 14. The deficits, though, the losses, the train wreck is front page, bold print. And it's what we see and what we remember. So how can you sell belief, which I think is what we really need more of in our country right now, is belief. Whether it's literal belief in the prime mover or God, or whether it's belief more in ourselves and our neighbors and what America can be. We need more belief, but it's hard to sell that. Harder to sell belief and hope than it is fear. And I think we need to admit that. Again, let's admit it. Not say it's wrong or right. Let's admit that, and then let the healthy stuff of hope and belief and give it some teeth and become better marketers of that and salespeople of that and show the benefits, show the ROI of that.
I think, I mean, you've hit on so many important themes. I'm just trying to imagine a presidential candidate like this talking about belief in something bigger than ourselves, in each other, in our neighbors, laying out a positive vision for the country. Yeah. We just don't see that anymore because fear does sell. We historically, and I think if you go back to the founding of the Constitution, the idea behind the Constitution, the unifying piece of that was it forced us to work together to build coalitions, to persuade others that our side is right. It seems like most politicians and both major parties have gotten completely out of the persuasion business. Right. It's just talking to the extremes and without trying to and tearing down the other side. I'd love to hear more from you about how you persuade people without screaming at them. How do we change somebody's heart and mind when we're having these conversations?
Right. All right, and this is not just me, but I mean, look, we all want it to be our idea. Every one of you want it to be your idea. Great leadership helps nurture making sure that the person you're trying to teach, it's your idea. It's our idea. We all want ownership. Nobody wants a mandate. Nobody wants to be told what to do. That's one rule I have. I've learned this 10 years ago, and I've been in the business 35 years. Now I go to every director. I tell them right off the bat, I go, look, I'm easy to direct. Just don't tell me what to do. And it's true. A director who's not telling me what to do, who I bring up an idea and says, yes, try it. I try it. I'm much more open to when they go, hey, well, what about this? If you try it this way. Hey, you gave me mine. I'm going to give you yours. Let's try them out. And the best one wins. And we're not playing tit for tat for who had the best ideas. Now, I get on a hot streak, and I've got instinctually great ideas every take, 20 takes in a row. A good director's just sitting back going, go, McConaughey. I got a director who's on a hot streak having 20 great ideas in a row. I want him to have her to have the 21st idea. You got the hot hand. Give me the ball, coach. So, on the we were talking about the gap. What was the last one?
Perception. Yeah. Kind of when you're arguing against almost like a caricature of what the other person even believes, and too many people actually believe that they're people who happen to be political opponents are sort of caricatures of who they actually are.
And in the research, when they did the studies, they would ask Republicans, what do you believe? And then they would ask Democrats, what do you think Republicans believe?
Yeah.
And then they would do the reverse. And what they found was what Republicans and Democrats actually agree, the median Republican and Democrat, is about this far apart.
Right.
But what we think the other side, we think we're this far apart. And that's that perception.
Yeah. And again, that's the Kool-Aid of what we're being sold. I think it's, we talked about it a little bit last night. It's what's truth, what's the facts, and how are we digesting that? We used to have a Chevy, a Ford, and a Dodge, CBS, NBC, and ABC News. Now the exact same topic is, I'm convinced one way if I'm watching Fox, another way if I'm watching MSNBC on the same topic. Now we have so many other filters and avenues and columns of news cycle. We're talking about where young people get their news. So much of them get it from a TikTok today. There's so much more information out there. Where do you know what the fact is? Where do you know what to trust?
How does this resonate with other? I would call you a cultural leader, right? You're cooler than the governors. Let's be honest. We might bring a little gravitas to the situation, but we don't move culture.
You guys, wait a minute. I have to tell a quick story. So last night, Matthew comes and he gets his hat. The governors all got their hats. Now, yesterday I saw Josh Green put on that cowboy hat and walk into the room. And then I saw him put on a cowboy hat and walk into the room. And all I can say is my chief of staff and I just looked at each other and we're like, holy crap, that's why he's a movie star. It's,
Yeah.
You wear it better.
But I mean, you know, and other, you know, moving the culture. You know, we can be adults in the room. We can you know, do this as governors. But how do you excite and move the culture?
Yeah.
Thinking beyond yourself, other cultural leaders, your interaction with popular culture. How do we kind of move the ball on this?
All right. I think this kind of, you know, so celebrities are part of the cultural movement. Okay. Look, celebrities and a lot of people in my industry are mostly lean to the left. Sure. Many of them lean further into what I would call an illiberal left. A lot of us are guilty of the same thing we're talking about from the other side, a default opening invalidation of the other side. We cannot lead. My industry cannot lead with, well, all hierarchies are tyrannical, period. No, that's not a default fact. We can't lead with, well, if you don't believe in abortion, then you're anti-woman. We can't lead with that. We can't lead with, well, the word means more and is more important than your intent. We can't lead with that. So we have to watch, my industry has to watch its tongue out of the gate because it's coming from a left, and at least 50% stereotypically of the country is going, oh, you're left. Okay, and okay, that's where you're coming. So we have to open that conversation with our opening statements and not invalidate a moderate or conservative view out of the gate, which we're guilty of doing to an extent. You know that going in when you're thinking about what are our voice boxes, and how it's got, again, I mean, the right agreements, the right way to negotiate, the right ways to disagree. We've got to sell the assets of that. You got to sell, and you got to sell the long-term assets of that. When I was talking about belief, and we're so into short money right now, and a short-term hit, 15 minutes of fame. I want to win. I want to do whatever I can do to preserve my party right now. We need a longer vision. How much further could we project? So if we show the assets of the right kind of negotiation, that, oh, this pays off. You sacrifice some plastic rings today for golden crowns tomorrow. We have to show that payoff, though. That's the ROI I'm talking about. But you got to make that real and tangible. And again, the fear is much more present and easy to sell in today, because it matters to me today, or it scares me today. I think it gets in the culture, it gets in the pop culture when it becomes part of our music, and when people start, especially younger, not especially younger, but definitely younger, people take more investment in themselves, and give themselves more value, or people don't really project much past the weekend right now, and that's a shame. So what do we try to teach all of our children? Delayed gratification. What do most of us still need to learn? Delayed gratification. How far can we believe? How far can we trust and believe that what we're investing in and our character today is going to pay not only us individually back, but more collectively back tomorrow? That's the belief that I wish we had more of. And if younger generation, the pop culture believes that, if my kids believe that and have that sense of integrity and worth walking out the door, this becomes an understanding of how you negotiate, how you interface with people, the rules of engagement that you learn in fair play on the playground. How do we work this out?
Your willingness to just have this conversation today is huge. I mean, there are very few people doing this, so thank you. We want to open it up to the governors, if that's
Sure.
okay, to ask a few questions. So, governors, this is your chance. Please, Governor Murphy.
Hey, Spencer. Matthew, I'm told that Tammy and I enjoyed your tequila last night with you and Camilla. I can't recall any of it, but
I have proof, visually and orally. It was great. We did have a good time.
it's really good. I know that much. Two questions. You've thought about elected office. Would love to hear if that's something that's still on your dance card. And secondly, who's your favorite director of all time that you've worked with?
Great. Yes, I have thought about running for political office, getting into this category. I'm on a learning tour and have been for probably the last 6 years of understanding what this category means, what it takes. Do I have instincts and intellect that it would be a good fit for me, and I would be a good fit for it, that I would be useful. I'm still on that learning tour, and you know, days like this, I'm learning a lot. Last night, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from you last night through that tequila, sir.
Let me just tell you, whatever you learned from Phil last night, you might want to just keep it. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Whatever he's learned from Phil, you can discount.
So, yes, Governor Murphy, it is something that I've been thinking about, and something that I have a great reverence for. My favorite director that I've worked with, well, Richard Linklater I've worked with 3 times, and he gave me my first shot in a film called Dazed and Confused in 1992. Yay. All right.
There it is. All right.
First 3 words I ever said on film. First 3 words I ever said on film. People go all the time, doesn't it upset you? Aren't you tired of being introduced with that? And I said, no, I know the author. My first day on the job, I thought that was going to be my one acting day of my life. A little hobby on a weekend. Turned out to be a career 36 years later, so I have no problem hearing that.
I mean, none of us remember the first 3 words we said as governor, so I'm impressed.
I also tell you, my staff said that they would electroshock me if I introduced you with those 3 words. So I've been holding back the whole time. So, all right, next governor, Governor Green.
Well, thank you for joining us, Matthew, and
Yes.
it really is refreshing. I think everyone feels that. So, one comment and then one question. So, you are someone who we think that might be wonderful in public service, and I would just comment: please don't fall into the trap to think that you have to be just one thing, because I think you're so, warm and likable. A lot of Republicans will want you to be a Republican, a lot of Democrats will want you to be a Democrat. Just be you, because that might be something special for all of us. So I wanted to say that.
Amen. Thank you.
And your family's wonderful. Thank you for letting us meet them too. That was extraordinary. And I just, I can't help but to ask, what kind of experience has it been like to be a movie star and being in these movies? And what's your favorite movie that you participate in? Because we love, at our home, Interstellar and Contact and all these things. What's meant a lot to you?
Great. So, as I said a minute ago, I got called in. I was in the right bar at the right time in Austin, Texas, and got asked if I wanted to play this part, try out for this part in the movie Dazed and Confused. That was the summer of '92. That 3 lines turned into 3 weeks' work. I went back to school. I graduated, packed up a U-Haul and $2,000, and headed west, young man, in 1993. I didn't have to go through the actual hardships of not getting jobs. The first 2 auditions I had in Hollywood, I actually got. And then I continued to work. Time to Kill was the one that made me a movie star and celebrity. All of a sudden, that was the film where my life changed, where the access to scripts changed, where I got much more access, and that's also when my life became a mirror. The world became a mirror. That's when I no longer met strangers and had to put on backpacks and head off to places unknown to meet strangers. It's a wild, unbalancing ride. I enjoyed it and was appreciative. I had times where I had to be less impressed and more involved. Because you got to remember, you're coming from, I'll do any of these scripts, to over 1 weekend in a box office opening Time to Kill, and all of a sudden, here, you can do any one you want. I'm going, wait a minute, 2 days ago, I'd have done any of these, and you were saying no, and now you're giving me 100 and saying, do whichever one you want? That was a lot to sort of navigate. I had success early. I had a rom-com run, which I was very fortunate to have succeeded in, but also at the same time, sort of, for me personally, felt like it had pigeonholed me and put me in a place where Hollywood wasn't offering anything else. Because I couldn't get what I wanted at that time. My wife and I agreed to take a sabbatical and moved to Texas on a ranch, and was not seen for 2 years. What I learned in that was being out of the business for 2 years and actually entertaining, seriously, becoming a high school football coach. and finding a new career. Players know it, right? I entertained that because I didn't know if Hollywood was going to offer me a job again. But what happened in that, what I learned was after 2 years of being away, where was McConaughey? All of a sudden, I became a novel, good idea for possibly a drama that I wanted to do. And then they came, and I jumped on them. And I had my wife behind my back that at times when I said, oh, there's too many, actually. They're back to back to back to back to back. I had a wife there that told me, you want to do all 4 of them in a row? I said, yes. She goes, then grab your pair and let's go do them. And we did. And they worked out. I won the Academy Award for Dallas Buyers Club. That was the pinnacle of achievement for acting in my field. You know, to have my peers deem that work the most excellent meant a lot to me. Meant a whole lot to me, and still does. And I've continued to work and enjoy. I love telling the stories. I mean, my job is as an actor is the humanities. It is when I do it well. When any of our performers do it well, what happens? You see, we put a mirror to your face when we do our job well, and that's a transaction with humanity that great art can give us, and that people that go watch it and share in that experience give us back. My favorite movie would be Mud.
Yeah.
And the reason why is that Mud is the movie. Now, my father's since moved on. In 92, he moved on, August 17th. But it's the film that I still have dreams and see it and even daydreams of him coming up to me at 12 years old going, hey, buddy, you see this movie, Mud? And I go, no, sir. And he goes, oh, man, let's go watch it, man. I hear it's a good one. And that's the one that he would have come to me and said, let's go watch this movie.
Huh.
And and then I just absolutely love the movie, and the director, Jeff Nichols, was great to work with.
Very cool, thank you. We're really glad you didn't go to law school and that you became an actor. So thanks for not just becoming another attorney.
And for the future, we think public service in elected office might be a better way to use your time than football coach, but I mean, just something to consider. But.
Or both.
Okay.
Or both.
Some of us would disagree.
Yeah.
Governor Mills.
Thank you, Matthew. And
Hello, Governor Mills.
Jared and Spencer. Listen, 2 things. One is you're a parent now. I think
Yes,
you have teenagers.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and what has that taught you about how to disagree better?
Right?
What- and- Maybe I should ask Camilla.
Great question.
What,
Yeah,
what do you teach them about success?
Okay.
What does success look like in their eyes? And secondly, you mentioned last night that a life-changing experience you had, I think as a teenager, going to Australia, some
Yes.
sort of exchange and getting yourself out of your home state, out of your own head. How would you describe that, and how would you recommend that for others that age?
And I will just say for those watching at home, 2 of the 3 kids are here with us today. So
Yes.
I'd love to hear your answer.
Daughter and son are here. My eldest son is not. And Camilla, please feel free to join in as I go.
Or did that lead to the tequila production? I don't know.
Yes. Well, it is called Pantalones, and as we say, if everyone kept their pants on, none of us would be here. So we made our kids. Speaking of children. Yeah, so teenagers. I have a hunch right now, and I know this is early days, but I'm feeling like this is the honey hole for me as a father. Partially because I'm not having to edit my stories with them as much, because they've gotten a little bit older. You know, I go as a parent, my idea is not politically speaking, but conservative, early, liberal, late. Let's set the rules up first, the expectations, the rules of the road, learn to block and tackle, to use sports term, before we're gonna go play wide out, all right? Let's understand who we are, try to understand what our expectations from our family is, what our character is, before we head out and go, all right, let's go hustle. Let's go try and make it. These teenage years, we're starting to loosen that up a little bit because hopefully, Camilla and I both feel hopefully that we've given a good base of values to our children, and that they understand our right from wrong. They understand how they may have to make a decision that's an underdog among their peers, but hey, that's who they are. Hopefully. Obviously, that's be a tough thing to navigate, and we'll continue to navigate that. You know, it's exciting because now you also, I always thought they need a father and a mother first, And then later on in life, they still need a mother and father, but you become a friend. What I'm noticing this stage is I feel like I'm being a big brother. And that's a really cool thing to be, a big brother and a father. But in the transition from father to friend, which will come later in life, I'm noticing that I'm feeling like a big brother. And that, I don't know, the proverbial arm around the back in the hard times, the proverbial pat on the back in the good times, and being a partner in those, and still a father, but yet a big brother, that's my favorite part about right now with them is becoming teenagers. Did you want to add anything to that, Camilla? I mean, look, we learned the thing that I think so many of us learn when we first have children, that, boy, it's more DNA than I thought. You know, they kind of are who they are. Woo. And we still see that, but we're trying to do our best with what we've environmentally, what we've taught them, and that family is very important, and their character is very important. I think you asked, what does success mean? They're coming into a life that is very affluent. We have access, and they're with us. We have to watch entitlement.
Don't let the governors be a bad influence on them.
Yeah. Don't let the governor, right? So we have to watch entitlement. What matters? What matters to us? We try to teach them that Camille and I've done our best to get where we are by doing a vocation well, by doing things right, by not screwing people over along the way, that we've earned our position, that we feel like we've earned our position, and to not rely on that, but also never bow and be afraid of that, to own that. There's no pressure for them to follow in our footsteps, except hopefully our character. That's the footsteps that are kind of non-negotiable in our family. Whatever they want to do. Favorite? What was the favorite? Australia.
Time in Australia.
So the exchange.
You got to read the book, guys. Just the drive from the airport to where he stayed in Australia is one of my favorite parts of the book.
Oh,
Please
it's
keep
a
going.
wonderful nightmare, isn't it? Yes. It's a black comedy.
You're gonna
so
love it.
I wanted to, like most young men and women, you graduate high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. My grades were good. I got into most of the schools that I wanted to, not all of them. And my mom had the idea, we were going to be an exchange student. And it was Sweden or Australia. And I said, Australia speaks English. And at the time, I was like, oh, and Elle Macpherson may be on the beach in Sydney. Sounds good. Let's go. So I got through the Rotary Club, and I went. And that year was the most important year of my life. It really was, because I was lost. I was alone. I lost all my crutches. Like I said, I was coming from a high school where I was catching green lights. I had a 4 handicap, 4 holes in ones, girlfriend, $45 in my pocket, a job, made straight A's. I had freedom, no curfew.
Great truck.
Yeah, great truck. And I hit a big red light when I showed up in Australia. None of that was on the table anymore. Didn't have my golf clubs, no girlfriend, no car, and I had a curfew at 10 p.m. And I was like, damn, I went backwards. And I was in an odd situation, but I had to endure it and figure it out. And I learned more about my family. I learned more about Texas. I learned more about America by being outside of it and objectively looking back at it. In that year, than I understood the previous 18 years. And there's a program, his name's David, who actually works with Steven Spielberg, if he's in the room, who does these exchanges and even socioeconomic exchanges from Palo Alto to Kilgore, Texas.
David McCullough III.
Yeah, this is a brilliant idea. And I think, whether it's a year away after high school for service, or whether it's a year away after high school for an exchange, I think it's a wonderful idea for maturity and empathy and understanding and figuring out who you are and who you're not. For young men and women, young children at 18, to go take a gap year. And that's the most valuable year that I ever had.
I will just give a shout out as somebody who went to Mexico for 2 years during that impactful time in my life. I want to shout out Governor Wes Moore and something we're doing here in Utah with service opportunities for our young people. It's really important in between high school and college. So, yep. We have time for maybe a couple more. Governor Walz.
Yeah, Matthew, thank you for being here. And I got a chance to be down there at Bentonville at Heartland Forward when you were down there.
Yes, sir.
Really interesting group of people trying to make impact on their community, somewhat outside of the formal setting of elected officials. And I guess I just think about this. You're viewing it as, entertainer with elected officials. We talked about that. What professions inspire you outside of those when you see
What
folks?
professions
Yeah, what
inspire
professions?
me?
Regular folks who we keep talking about on this that are out there doing the work, the ones that are figuring out how to pay the bills.
Yeah.
What professions, when you look at that, you say, you know what, these people are really doing the work. They're out there. Because down there it was child care providers, it was a lot of other people.
Well, I think we were all impressed with the people on the front line during COVID, the sacrifices that were made there, the invisible, talk about invisible assets. That was people stepping into a war that they didn't know the rules of and were on the front line of an enemy that wanted contact and that you really had a lot of trouble defending. The persistence there and the selflessness there. People talk about, what's a hero, what's heroic acts. And it doesn't seem to be most of the time that it's something really special or a magic trick. We were talking about magic tricks. There's usually not a magic trick to it. It's not a big conscious, I'm going to do this, and that would be a heroic move. It's somebody usually doing their job, taking it very seriously, and when the weather gets nasty, saying, I'm sticking to it. And I'm going to do it my best while I'm the underdog, and the weather is nasty, and I'm going to stay the path. So many times it's about endurance and just committing to what is my job when I've got all these other things to take my eye off the ball and all these other reasons and excuses to take my eye off the ball that everyone would understand. But personally even, that a lot of times it's just, it's something that we personally, our own conscience can't let us do. To have that fortitude, that's usually the heroes that I appreciate. And they are on page 14 usually, but they don't have to be on page 1 either. They're doing it for themselves and for others at the same time.
Love it. Thank you. Anybody else? Governor Healy.
Well, one thing, I think all of us, it'd be so wonderful if we could continue this conversation and have you on speed dial. A lot of what but in terms of articulating, I think truth, facts actually matter, but what's the way to message that, and what's the way to connect with people who day to day we're confronted with that maybe want to fight or tear down things that we're doing? And just to say, I think this is incredibly valuable, and I appreciate the chairs bringing you to town. One thing I wanted to ask you a little bit about is you and Camilla have this awesome foundation, Just Keep Living Foundation. We met Shannon yesterday and your awesome team. And can you talk a little bit for all of us about what that work is about and who you're targeting and the why of what you're doing and what we can learn from that?
Sure. Yeah, I can. Thank you for that. So Camilla and I started the Just Keep Living Foundation. And, with success, I got the question of where would you like to, I want to invest my time and energy into helping people out, serving people. So it was where? Boy, and there's a big menu. There's a long list. We all know there's millions of great places and great things that are in need of help. But we wanted to make sure it was about prevent before you need to cure. We wanted to make sure it was about incentive. And so we said, young people, there we go. And so we ended up selling on Title I high schools in the United States. Why? Because the more I interviewed people and the more I asked myself, was high school's that last bastion, that last bridge before you're about to get your independence. And if you're screwing up in high school and just getting demerits, you take it out of high school now that you're an adult, do the same screw up, you may be behind bars or worse. So let's catch them right there where they're still supposed to listen to the principal, they're still supposed to listen to mom and dad, and they're still considered children. before they become an adult. Let's catch them. And if they're doing well, let's keep them on the right track, give them a green light, let them double down. If they're not doing well, let's urge them over here. Let's show them another option that maybe they don't know out. So we've gotten Title I schools across America. Now, this is a 50% dropout rate schools. We're based on, they come into, for a couple hours after school, they learn a physical fitness goal. Whether that's, I want them to try to make the soccer team next year, but I can't run a half a mile. We'll help you with that. Maybe it's, I want to lose 3 pounds so I can fit in my prom dress in 3 months. We're going to help you with that. Nutrition on a budget. All right, Mom, you brought home 6 burgers. We got nothing against burgers, but we're going to take that $52, walk you through the supermarket. We're going to get some produce, some beans, maybe some meat. It's going to be a healthier meal, and you're going to get to cook it with your kids. So that's family time. It's also based on community service, mandatory community service, which I was saying last night. I would not have given my Saturday mornings at 4 a.m. to go pack for the troops or to clean up a beach or a highway like these kids do. 100% of these kids, 4:30 in the morning, they're on the bus because it gives them the ownership we were talking about. Oh, we're not just receiving, we're giving back. And it was a mandatory for them. Surprised the heck out of me. But it gives them the ownership and the integrity that they're doing something with it. And then finally, over the program, we have a halo of gratitude. At the end of every class, we have a gratitude circle. And all the students get around and have to share something that they're grateful for. And one of the coolest things about that is we hear more and more of the kids saying, my favorite thing about the gratitude circle is I heard one of my friends say something they were thankful for that I have in my life that I've always taken for granted. So that reciprocity and that gratitude exchange is really nice. So we're showing these students some options, new options as well. That a lot of them come into a family, maybe their older brother's in a gang. That's all they know. We're going to show them another option, another path to college. We have some wonderful stories out of it. Some people that were at the bottom of the rung as a freshman, and by their senior year, were getting scholarships to colleges. So we have some science behind the feel good, and that's what we're doing. And we're trying to spread quantitatively, but also maintain the quality and be where we're needed and how we're needed across America.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
All right, we're out of time, Matthew, but we're going to give you the last word. Any advice you'd like to share with these public servants and all the other people here who are doing this great work?
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for convening on what you're convening on. I mean, this is a really important reason to be gathering. And as leaders of states and CEOs of states and parents of states, this is a real issue and way to be out in front of it. Trust that it has teeth and go forward with it with teeth. Be aggressive with this as part of a real solution that's necessary, not wanted, necessary. People want to listen, but we got to. I think the threat. I think you can even use the threat of if we don't do this, this is what's going. This is what could happen. I think the threat scare some people a little bit with it. Trust that what you're onto is good medicine. So scare some people, scare us, scare more Americans scare more leaders. And if we don't do this, this could be the outcome. But make that measurable. And I wouldn't be afraid of the threat.
Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew McConaughey. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Really
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.